House of the Dragon is stalling the Battle of Tumbleton, and somehow that delay is making everything around it feel even more dangerous than the battle itself. Because Episode 5 is not just about armies moving slowly toward each other. It is about every character on both sides of this war quietly losing control of something they thought they still had, and most of them have not even realized it yet. What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Breakdown Epic. Just to let you know, this video will contain spoilers. Now, this episode is fascinating because it builds tension in 4 completely different directions at once, and each one has implications that stretch far beyond this single chapter. So instead of going through things in the order the episode presents them, I want to start with the storyline that I think matters most for the long-term future of the war. And that is Aemond waking up inside Harrenhal. Because what is happening between him and Alys Rivers might quietly be one of the most dangerous developments of the season. Alys is not nursing him back to health out of compassion. She is positioning herself. She wants Harrenhal. She has wanted it since Daemon refused to even consider giving it to her. And now, with Aemond vulnerable, emotionally broken, and psychologically craving the kind of maternal closeness he never properly received from Alicent, Alys has the perfect opening. She does not need to fight him. She does not need to threaten him. She just needs to become the person he emotionally depends on. And honestly, that is scarier than any dragon battle, because it means Aemond may come out of Harrenhal as a completely different political animal, one shaped by whatever version of himself Alys decides to build. In my opinion, that setup is brilliant and deeply unsettling at the same time.
Now, let me rewind and talk about Tumbleton, because what Ormund Hightower is doing there is genuinely one of the smartest military strategies we have seen in either timeline. He is not just occupying a town, he is turning an entire civilian population into a shield. By stockpiling wood throughout the settlement, he creates a scenario where any dragon attack would instantly turn the whole place into a furnace. Rhaenyra cannot burn it without killing hundreds of innocents. She cannot siege it without her forces being exposed. And she cannot ignore it because a hostile army sitting that close to King's Landing is a direct political threat. What makes this even darker is that it forces Rhaenyra's own side to fight without their greatest advantage. Dragons become liabilities instead of weapons. Infantry has to do the heavy work, and every day the situation remains unresolved, Ormund gets stronger, while Rhaenyra's image gets weaker. That is a masterful use of terrain, psychology, and political awareness. Now, here's the part that concerns me most. Ormund is also propping up Daeron as a legitimate alternative king, which means this is no longer just a military occupation, it is a political statement. As long as Daeron stands behind Hightower banners, the Greens have a face to rally around, and that face happens to carry dragon blood and Hightower loyalty at the same time, which makes him uniquely dangerous for Rhaenyra. Meanwhile, the forces trying to reach Tumbleton are being slowed down in the most frustrating way possible. Criston Cole and his men are burning river crossings, laying traps, and doing everything they can to delay the inevitable. They are massively outnumbered, and they know it, but what they lack in numbers they make up for in desperation, which in this world is often more dangerous than discipline. In my opinion, Cole is now past the point of strategic calculation. He is fighting because stopping means accepting defeat, and that is something his ego will never allow.
He would rather die in a blaze of martial glory than quietly surrender, and that kind of energy makes someone extremely dangerous to both sides. Now let's move to King's Landing, because Rhaenyra's grip on the capital feels weaker every episode. The Gold Cloaks are unpaid and angry. Insurgents are now bold enough to murder members of the City Watch inside their own barracks. Graffiti calling her illegitimate is spreading through the streets, and the woman sitting on the throne keeps trying to solve military problems with political caution and political problems with symbolic gestures. That disconnect is becoming painful to watch. She wants to be her father. She wants to rule through measured dignity. But Viserys ruled in peacetime. Rhaenyra is ruling inside a civil war, with no money, no unified council, and a population that is one bad week away from open revolt. Daemon sees this clearly, but keeps undermining her in the exact moments where she needs support. And Mysaria champions the small folk, but has almost no allies on the council who agree with her. So every meeting becomes a battle inside a battle, and the real war outside keeps getting worse while they argue. What stood out to me most in the capital this episode is the Helena situation. She is pregnant. The child is almost certainly Aegon's, and the implications of that pregnancy are enormous, depending on who finds out and what they do about it. If the child is male, he instantly becomes a rival claimant. If Rhaenyra discovers it, the child becomes either a political hostage or a target. And if Alicent cannot get Helena out of the keep before the pregnancy becomes visible, then the entire Hightower position inside King's Landing collapses. That is why the escape attempt matters so much. It is not just about freedom, it is about survival.
The fact that the tunnels are blocked and the women may now be physically trapped inside the walls of the castle raises a terrifying possibility. They did not just fail to escape. They may have been allowed to try so that someone could confirm their intentions and use that information later. That sounds exactly like the kind of game Mysaria would play. Now here is where Aegon's story gets interesting again, because even though he is far from King's Landing and far from power, his scenes carry emotional weight that keeps him relevant. Larys finally telling him the truth about himself was one of the strongest moments of the episode, in my opinion. Because for once, someone is not flattering him, managing him, or carefully working around his ego. Someone is just telling him he wasted every advantage he was given. And the fact that it comes from Larys, who has spent most of his screen time being calculating and reserved, makes it hit even harder. This is the first time Larys sounds like he is speaking without a plan behind the words, and Aegon's reaction tells you he heard every syllable. Now, Tywin Lannister showing up again connect directly to the money problem that keeps strangling Rhaenyra's reign. If he still has access to crown funds, or if Casterly Rock becomes Aegon's base of operations, then suddenly the financial imbalance of the war could shift. That is a huge development if the show follows through on it. The Bela and Adam scenes serve a different but important purpose. They remind us that the search for Vhagar is still active, but more importantly, they give Bela something the show has been slowly stripping from her, a voice. She is no longer just the grieving betrothed. She is a woman watching her own future dissolve, while the queen who should be supporting her won't even make eye contact. That kind of quiet resentment is exactly what House of the Dragon uses as fuel for later betrayals. Now, the religious angle with Rhaenyra at the Sept is also worth sitting with for a second.
She is not there out of genuine faith. She is there for optics, and Daemon, who hates the faith entirely, sees through it immediately. But what makes their exchange important is not the prayer itself. It is the fact that Rhaenyra cannot understand why people are resisting her when she believes the gods clearly favor her. That kind of thinking is dangerous because it confuses circumstance with divine mandate. And every time someone in this franchise starts believing destiny is on their side, tragedy follows. Now, let me lock in a prediction. I think the next major event is not actually the Battle of Tumbleton itself. I think it is the fracture inside Rhaenyra's own side that makes the battle so much worse when it finally arrives. The Gold Cloaks are unreliable. Daemon keeps undermining her publicly. Ulf is restless and disrespected. Hugh's family is trapped in the very town they may have to burn. And Corlys is still carrying resentment from being denied something he earned. That is not a coalition. That is a collection of people tolerating each other until the next betrayal makes it impossible. Before I finish, here is the fast-fire recap of where everything stands. Aemond is being emotionally rebuilt by Alys inside Harrenhal. Ormund turned Tumbleton into a civilian shield and a political headquarters for Daeron. Criston Cole is slowing the Black Forces through guerrilla desperation. Rhaenyra's capital is leaking loyalty in every direction. Helena's pregnancy could change the entire succession game.
The escape attempt may have been a trap designed to expose intentions. Aegon is broken, but now carrying real emotional fuel thanks to Larys. And the Saywatch murders confirm that the insurgency inside King's Landing is much bigger than anyone in the Red Keep wants to admit. So, overall, this episode may not have the Battle of Tumbleton yet, but it makes every second before that battle feel heavier, more complicated, and more emotionally loaded. And in my opinion, that is exactly what House of the Dragon does best. It makes you afraid of the moment before the fire, because that is when the real damage begins. But anyway, that is my breakdown of House of the Dragon Season 3, Episode 5, and why the delay before Tumbleton may be more dangerous than the battle itself. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, subscribe, and let me know in the comments. Do you think Rhaenyra's coalition holds long enough to survive Tumbleton, or is the real collapse already happening?